You're back. How was the drive up? My granddaughter was supposed to run cross country in Missoula at the university golf course Saturday. I hope it clears up by then, or they're going to cancel it. It just reminds me of my firefighting days, that's all.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, welcome. Yeah, you have to push the button. Use the mic. That way the participants on Zoom can hear you.
Perfect. Well, yeah, good afternoon. Good to see you all again. It's been a couple months, a month or so. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to come up here again. We have a couple of important visitors in town and just thought it would be nice to bring them up and give them the opportunity to meet with you. So I'll just do a couple of introductions and then hand it over to them. So we have Tom Heinlein in the end here. So Tom is acting assistant director for the BLM for National Conservation Lands. And that includes a whole bunch of other program areas that he'll go into. And then Kim Prill is here. She's our deputy state director for Montana Dakota's BLM. She oversees energy, lands, and minerals. Did I get that right, Kim? And Katie Stevens is our Western Montana district manager. So they've been in town this week. We've been having their annual team meeting, particularly focusing on land and water conservation fund, land tenure, land access topics. And they chose Missoula for their annual business meeting location. So we've had a great opportunity to engage with them. We took them out yesterday to the Blackfoot, where we went with the council on the last couple of field trips, just to be able to share some of the story of those land acquisitions and our partnership with TNC. Both Mike Shadell and Steve Kletzel were out there with us, and just really exciting about what we've been able to accomplish with our partners and able to highlight some of the successes that we've had working with CSKT, particularly through the Reserve Treaty Rights Lands programs and some of the great work around forest restoration and canvas and bitterroot restoration and things like that. So it was really, really a treat to be able to show them that landscape that's really special for all of us. But yeah, that's kind of the intent for today, was just bring them up here for a meet and greet. They are going into an executive leadership team meeting next week in Grand Junction with BLM senior leadership, including the director Stone Manning. So I think there'll be some opportunities to carry forward some messages too, if there's any questions you have or things you'd like to share with them. So Tom.
Thanks, Erin. And again, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having us. It's great to be here. And my name is Tom Heinlein. And as Erin said, I'm acting as the acting assistant director for National Conservation Lands for the BLM. And I'm based out of our new Western headquarters, which is in Grand Junction, Colorado. Home for me is in South Central Alaska. No stranger to Western Montana. I was lucky to live here through most of my 20s in Western Montana, so it's good to be back. And it was great to be up the Blackfoot yesterday and see all the great things happening. That was all champion land when I lived here, so it's awesome. So the directorate that I'm leading right now, it is titled National Conservation Lands and Community Partnerships, but it includes the administration of the Land and Water Conservation Fund for the Bureau. And it also includes, well, it's a number of programs, but it also includes all of our cultural programs, including our tribal relations programs that we have in place. So I might speak a little bit about that while I have you all, because we do have some developments there that I think are worth sharing. But first, just on LWCF, Land Water Conservation Fund. So we, you know, it was just, again, I'm super excited to see what's going on in the Blackfoot. And I was really happy to hear the engagement with you all in that project. It's, I don't want to say that that doesn't happen everywhere in BLM in projects that we have, but it doesn't. And it's great to see the, you know, the full involvement in those lands that are your homelands and the engagement there. And I hope we are building an atmosphere in our bureau that will engage more and more of an inclusive environment for tribes to engage fully. And maybe that segues into a couple of things. So this week, you know, our Interior Secretary, Deborah Holland, she's made it very clear that improving our relationships with tribes and how we consult, how we meaningfully consult and work with tribes is you know, one of the highest levels of importance for her. And just this week, the Bureau of Land Management pushed down some very much more detailed guidance to the field and how we're going to engage and what our priorities are and some tools actually for accomplishing you know, meaningful, not just consultation, but co-stewardship, co-management, the full suite of opportunities that I think, you know, we've always had, but I don't think that, you know, bureau-wide that we've been set up to actually have our managers fully knowledgeable about how best to engage and to build these programs. So that's exciting. The second thing I just wanted to mention is that nationally, we have not had a bureau national level tribal liaison for a number of years. And I am happy to say that we did hire one. And you know, but it happened quickly, and that doesn't always happen in government. But we're hopeful to have this person on next week. I can tell you, you guys will be the first group that I can actually utter her name. And her name is Nicole Hanna. Nicole's a Chippewa. She's a tribal member from Sault Ste. Marie in Michigan. And she has a history of working in the Department of Interior in tribal areas. So we're feel very fortunate to get her. And I think she'll be an immediate, helpful, useful liaison between many of you and our BLM director. So we're very excited to have her in place, and she'll be sitting in Washington, DC in the front hall at the Bureau, right by the director's office. So that's a great thing. I just wanted to mention that. So those were kind of the main things that I wanted to share. I know that Katie and Kim may have things more specific to Montana, but as you know, as Aaron mentioned, we do have an executive leadership team meeting next week in Grand Junction. All of the leadership in the Bureau will be coming together, and it's a great opportunity if there's something that you all feel is very important for me to convey in that setting, not just to the director, but for all the other leaders, our state directors and other assistant directors like myself. I'd love to hear that. And again, thank you for having me.
Well, thank you, Tom. Thank you for the information. I worked for BLM up in Alaska for a brief period, a couple of years as a smoke jumper up in Fairbanks. The Land and Water Conservation Fund, what do you mean by you manage that?
It's so in the past, the program, as the funds have flowed down to the Bureau, the program had been administered through a different directorate in the Bureau, which is actually our Lands and Realty Directorate. A decision was made not quite a year ago, I think, that we would shift the overall just sort of policy and overall tracking and administration of the program over to this directorate. On the front end, we'd be working the policy side, working with, you know, the appropriators in Congress, et cetera, the department. On that end, and working with all of our states who bring us these projects and you know, through the partners that they work with. And then hand in hand, we work with our Lands and Realty group in the Bureau who actually execute, you know, the deals. So by program, that's what I mean. It's more the budget and policy side of it.
One thing that I've always, back in my early days of my career was as a tribe was trying to access that Land and Water Fund, and it seemed like a wall that I couldn't penetrate. For whatever reasons, limitations, not treated equally as states, whatever it might be. Is there examples where tribes are accessing that fund? Do you know of?
I don't know that there are any really good solid examples yet, but I do know that it will not surprise me to see that at least in projects, and this maybe isn't directly answering your question, but in projects that the BLM states bring to us that have a strong tribal component, a strong tribal support, a direct, some of the acquisitions we're making on the Blackfoot, maybe as an example, I think we're going to start to see those actually come out in the screening criteria where we actually rate and rank and prioritize our projects on the front end. That'll be a strong, heavily weighted component of that. But, specifically, I'm not aware of any specifically tribal led and nominated proposals, but I would encourage, if that is something that you're interested in, to engage in those conversations, if there are.
Equal opportunity, and it hasn't been, in my opinion.
And maybe one last thing on that, we're excited. We have a permanent appropriation for Land and Water Conservation Fund for the first time, so we're hopeful we'll have a much more steady and predictable budget that way.
Yeah, hopefully that doesn't change. That's great that's happened. Absolutely. Any questions for Tom? Oh, okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Kim Krill. I was just pleased to be able to tag along with Erin and her team and Katie and have the opportunity with Tom being from headquarters to be exposed to some of the activities going on here up and around this area. Get some toes on the ground and learn about the important collaboration going on with CSKT tribe and these acquisition areas that are of great importance. So I have not a whole lot to offer other than I'm thankful to be able to be here and meet everybody. Katie and I are involved, just a different talking point than Land Water Conservation Fund, but of course of high importance to the Bureau of Land Management, Forest Service, and of course the Department of Interior is the implementation of the Water Rights Settlement Act exchange. So Katie and I continue to be very engaged at the implementation and leadership efforts. So we have that on our radar screen as a very high priority as a bureau in close coordination with the department, of course, and the Forest Service.
We deeply are happy with you saying that. So absolutely very paramount for us.
Yes, understood. Likewise.
Thank you. Good to meet you.
Yes, and I'm Katie Stevens. Glad to be here too. I'm looking forward. I live in Butte and I'm looking forward to being able to come up with Erin for consultation, government to government consultation with all of you in the future. In addition to the water rights settlement, just a couple of things I would mention is it's been really fun to watch the internship program that has happened in the Missoula field office with the SKC. Really value the interns that we've been able to have with us, and we're looking forward to talking with SKC about even some different arrangements that might give interested interns a more direct path into employment if they're interested in that. And then I think the other piece is I also sit on a national science committee for BLM, and it's also been really meaningful in just the past couple of weeks to start seeing how things like Indigenous knowledge are making their way into our policy. We're working on a permanent policy for science, and Indigenous knowledge is one of the things that has a specific place in that policy now that we're working on. So it's been a really good change and good to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. And it's always nice to meet a Butte rat.
I do seem to be one of those. Thank you.
I love Butte. I was there for a softball tournament a while ago, and for one of my granddaughters, it was a state tournament for little girls, and I was staying up at the big hotel up on the hill, And they were having the 1923 cast and meet and greet thing in the hotel when I was there. I thought that was pretty interesting. So I don't know if they started filming or anything, but that's had a direct impact on us Yellowstone series, because a lot of their filming is around here, but also that interest of people moving here is kind of a double-edged sword, but yeah. I forgot what it was. Dang it. Mike?
Your indigenous knowledge, where it's coming from and getting incorporated?
So I do know at Tom's level, they're working on a new manual for how to incorporate indigenous knowledge. For us, it's just an encouragement for our staff to work with their existing relationships and partnerships and to include that indigenous knowledge when they have a chance to. So probably still a lot of work to be done on how to do it well, but I was just gratified to see that there's that placeholder in our science policy to use that where we have it.
And I would only add in some of that direction that we received this week on it was called a co-stewardship instructional memorandum, and in good old Bureau of Land Management language. There is an encouragement to seek that knowledge and, in our planning efforts at the very earliest stages, which I think is helpful, but there's also, making that, our day-to-day way of doing business in addition to just planning. That'll be important that we do that as well.
Go ahead.
Back to the land, the Settlement Act, can you remind Montana that includes the subsurface?
We are actually talking about that, and there's of course greater minds than mine involved in that, and our legal solicitors and opinions. But the encouraging words at the front end of 13J is enter and negotiate. So I think we're going to have to approach that and do our due diligence. And it also speaks to the overall spirit and the intent of trying to reach the Water Rights Settlement Act and the water rights for the tribe. So understood. Thank you.
It is just nice for us to hear your perspective on that too, I would say.
And probably important to continue to offer your input in that too.
Well, we could just take the subsurface rights of the federal lands that go to the state. Just, make us whole. The traditional knowledge, we have a production that we did a long time ago, because me being a fire person, called Fire on the Land. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but it's pretty cool. But it reminded me of a story. It's a smoke jumper story, and it had to do with the Man Gulch fire up there in Helena, and the one survivor who was the foreman. And he attributed his being able to survive that fire by starting a backburn. And he only thought about the backburn from listening to the Indians talk about how all the burning and backburning they did. And so the backburn that he did and going back into the fires would saved his life. And it was the first example I heard of a Forest Service person doing a backburn from traditional knowledge from the Man Gulch fire. Yeah, they didn't do backburns back then. It wasn't really that era. There was no prescribed fire. It was just put everything out. Yeah.
Right, the boat ride on that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's when they tell that story. It's just amazing. What lake? Holter?
Yeah.
Holter Lake.
Hates the mountains.
Yeah, I have seen that Fire on the Land. It's really a great production, and it was really nice to watch that and then interact with you, Chairman McDonald, and when Tony Kashola Jr. was out with us too on that one trip. And both of you spoke really well to the value of incorporating traditional knowledge in management. And admittedly, this is an area where we're going to have a lot of learning. We, coming from the agency, are going to have a lot of learning to do. I'm just really excited to be in this time period and in an environment within this administration to have the license to to explore and be curious about those things and collaborate with you all and learn about how we can work together and incorporate, that important source of knowledge. It's particularly fortunate that we have such a great partner in CSKT and, building on those existing relationships that we have and at the both, the technical staff level and upward. And then just the capacity, that you all have in your fire fuels, and forestry management shops in particular is just a great resource there. So an open invitation, and we're going to see how this goes, but really excited about being here and the opportunities that are being presented right now.
Well, we deeply appreciate that. Thank you so much. And it's great to meet all of you. And Tom, I hope we get back to Alaska pretty soon. No, someday.
Thank you so much for your time. We know you're busy, so just a quick meet and greet and hello. And if there's anything else you'd like Tom to know or Kim to relay up to our new state director, Sonia Gurman in Montana, please let us know or send, you have my email as well. I'd be happy to share that on.
Where our traditional ecological knowledge will tell us that we want to see buffalo on all federal lands that they used to tread upon. So we're interested in the restoration of buffalo on keystone species that should be wherever we can. So I'll bring that forward. That's really important for us for subsistence uses. And you think about what's going on right now with climate change, it's one of those perfect species that it has the resilience to be able to handle the extreme events that we're facing in the future. Such a hardy animal, it's incredible. The perfect ungulate and well, bovine, I guess you call it, on the landscape, just incredible. So Montana, being the Montana Territory, was the last place free roaming buffalo were really in large numbers, and especially the large swaths of BLM land in central Montana. We really are appreciative of any restoration efforts of buffalo. And it means so much to tribal communities to be able to do that, to restore hunting and gathering rights that are part of our treaty rights, that when we signed the treaty, buffalo hunting was expected to be here forever. And it was taken away. It was a violation of the treaty. So restoration of buffalo is actually a honoring of our treaty and respecting the treaty and fulfilling treaty obligations by the United States government with our tribes. And so we appreciate any effort when there's a wind of change to restore native species and become more resilient with our native species to withstand the future of unknown certainty with climate change. We really encourage land management agencies, and we really love our Missoula office and our people there because they're very forward thinking, as so many BLM people are. Being a former BLM person, I know there's a lot of great people in the BLM. They're probably all aged out like me, but the younger people are better. Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it. You too. Drive safe. All right, Jen, is there another item? No? Any other council action items, discussion points, follow up? Well, I think we'll have a chairs meeting on Monday.
Just Chad will do the letter.
Okay. Super. Thank you, letter. The outcome from that was really the trip that they're help financing to Cape Canaveral. Is that?
Yeah.
Just,
And we're gonna do Chad's gonna bring a group together to help kind of shepherd the project and the process, is my understanding.
you just